Hello everyone and welcome to the Williamson County Sports Connection. I'm Jack Daniels, your host, and with me for today's show is the new head football coach at Ravenwood High School, Coach Will Hester. Coach, welcome.
Thanks, Jack. I appreciate you having me.
Well, let's start with you. Just tell us about where you grew up, where you went to school, and then what you've been doing over the last few years. Are you married? Just tell everybody about yourself.
Well, I grew up in Brentwood, just in the shadow of what is now Ravenwood High School. My parents live in Carriage Hill subdivision, which is just right across the street from the school there. It was just a two-lane road with a couple of one-lane underpasses at the time, and we used to take our BB guns and shoot rabbits in the field that is Ravenwood High School now. So it's pretty interesting that my life's kind of come full circle there. But after I graduated from Brentwood High, I went to Tennessee Tech, spent 4 wonderful years there. After that, Ron Crawford's dad, Tom, gave me my first ever job out of college at Laverne High School, and I stayed there for 9 years, became the head coach there. Spent a little time in the middle there at Siegel High School helping David Watson open that school, and then came to Brentwood after my years at Laverne, and now I'm at Ravenwood.
Well, you married?
I am married. My wife, Wendy, and I have a son and a daughter. My son, Riggs, is 6 and goes to Lipscomb Elementary, and my daughter's 10. She's also at Lipscomb Elementary.
Okay, now you were at Laverne. I remember Don Thomas used to be at Laverne.
He followed Tom. I worked for both of those guys there.
Okay.
And then I followed Don at Laverne.
Yeah, now Don's down at Lincoln County. Do you play them next year?
We scrimmaged them already in the spring.
Okay.
We'll scrimmage them again in the fall. But, yeah, Don and I keep in touch pretty close still.
Okay, I thought there might have been a little bit of a tie-in there with Lincoln County since I remember you guys were together. So before we get into spring practice and all that kind of stuff, let's talk about who you got helping you. Are there still some assistant coaches you're looking for? Just kind of go over your staff with us there.
All right, sure will. Daniel Keel, who was the defensive coordinator for Joe Rietveld at Ravenwood, is going to stay on in that same capacity. 2 guys are coming from Brentwood with me. Clint Finch, who was the offensive line coach last year at Brentwood, will do the same thing at Ravenwood. And Dan Quessenberry, who's done several things at Brentwood High over the last several years, will coach the quarterbacks for us. Bryant Gunner, who is at Ravenwood, will coach the running backs. Alex Tracus, who is at Ravenwood already, will coach the receivers. And then on defensive side of the ball, I've already mentioned Daniel. Zach Farkas will coach the inside linebackers. Daniel's going to coach the outside linebackers as well as coordinate the defense. Andy Elrod, who is at Ravenwood, is going to do the D-line. And Joe Cardinal is currently doing the defensive backs. He's at Woodland Middle School and comes over in the afternoon. And we're looking to hire one more guy. Okay. Now,
are you going to be the offensive coordinator?
I am. I'm going to be the offensive coordinator. And on paper, I'm coaching the H-backs or the full-backs for us right now. But, you know, I kind of float around and do a little bit of everything.
Okay. So let's kind of get into that part of it. Kind of go over what your offensive and defensive philosophies are then as far as.
Well, coming over as being the defensive coordinator at Brentwood last year, we're going to stay with the same kind of philosophy. We're going to be a 3-4 defense because we think we can play more linebacker-type kids. We don't feel like we have to be huge up front to be able to play that scheme, and so we can play more guys. We think tight end, fullback-type kids are where the majority of our skill lies right now, so we want to get as many of them guys on the field as we can. So we're going to start out in a 3-4 with basically, head-up techniques on the center and the tackle and move those guys and add a little confusion for the offensive line. We're going to try to be simple, real fundamental. Learned a lot from Ron Crawford when I was coaching with him, and we're going to keep everything in front of us and live to play another down. We're not going to be overly aggressive and put ourselves in a bind. And then offensively, we'll be some sort of a spread, power, run game type offense. Going to utilize 2 backs. Very similar to what you would see out of a Gus Malzahn Auburn coach team or something like that, where we're still going to be physical at the point of attack, block down and kick out, but we're going to also run a bunch of screens and then throw the ball vertically down the field too. And we're going to use tempo. We're going to try to snap the ball as quick as we can, and we realize that's going to put a little bit of our defense in a bind, but we think that should be the strength of our team. So,
so you shotgun 2 backs?
Yes, sir. We'll be under center some, but mainly shotgun.
Not like this play I drew up here on the board back here.
I love the straight tee, but probably going to stay away from that.
That goes back old school, and I told you when I did, I said, I don't know if I've ever run that play in my life. But
I know you, and you've never ran that play before.
Well, let's talk a little bit about maybe some of the kids you got. They may have been returning starters off of last year's team.
Absolutely. Like I said, we've got a lot of those linebacker-type kids, so we feel like that our strength lies there, and we have guys like Chris Wine, who will play outside linebacker for us, John Cockerham, Robert Pomeroy, Jeb Stewart. I can go on about linebacker type kids. We have a bunch of those. And then at quarterback, we got a big quarterback battle now. 4 guys with an opportunity to probably be the starting quarterback, and those guys are Avery Jankowski, Ryan Smeltzer, both seniors. Avery got a little time at the end of the year last year, I think their last 3 or 4 games, so he's got the most experience in game situations. And then you got young guys in Cole Brown, who's going to be a junior, and Andrew Rapay, who'll be a sophomore. Those guys are both really talented physically and bring a lot to the table as far as what they can do with their feet and throwing the ball. So they'll give us a couple of different options there as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's kind of back up, and I want to get back to the point in which the interview process, when it started, and when you were actually offered the job, and when did you kind of officially start over as a head coach at Ravenwood?
Okay.
That kind of a time frame.
The whole interview process started around the holidays, right before Christmas time. December. We got put out by Mount Juliet in the quarterfinals. So that's right before Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. So, it started a few weeks after that, and went through the process, and it was several different interviews, 2 or 3, I think, and then Dr. Vaden offered me the job on January 2nd, I believe. And from the first day back after Christmas, we've been doing the early morning workout thing. So we did 5:15 workouts with all the guys, and had extremely good turnout. Very, very excited about how the kids showed up. 75 kids a day at 5:15 in the morning. They worked really hard, and we ran them through 3 stations. We would have one in the gym when we were doing agility type stuff, and Ravenwood very well. We had to utilize the small weight room there with a group, and then we did our Olympic lifts, our power cleans and snatches and things in the locker room where those platforms are. So we rolled them through there and got a lot done in an hour.
The aspect of 5:15 in the morning, as far as when does the kids, when you say 5:15, does that mean the kids got to be dressed out, ready to go at 5:15? And you're going through.
We would blow the first whistle at 5:30. So
at 5:30,
mm-hmm.
And then the aspect as far as, I guess, when's a good time to blow the final whistle? You get them out of there about 7, give them time.
Yeah, we tried to get them. We would try to be done by 6:45. We tried to go an hour and 15 minutes so that they could have time to get them a breakfast and get showered up before they had to be to first class. So.
Yeah, I know one of the things in which I know our county, we've gotten better. And when we built Summit High School, we made the facilities a little bit bigger in the weight room, and I don't think you can have a big enough weight room as far as.
Well, especially when you're dealing with 100 athletes on the varsity team or 150 in the program, it makes it very difficult. There's really no space that's, of adequate size. That's why you have to do kind of a circuit type deal,
right,
and roll them through. And, like I mentioned before, we want to play with tempo on offense, so we feel like we're going to do everything with a tempo. We're going to lift with a tempo. We're going to stay on them as far as soon as the bar goes down from one kid, another kid's picking it up. So we want to keep that pace in everything we do so that when we're practicing that way or when we're playing that way, that we don't have any issues. So we're trying to build tempo in everything, and that helps us in the weight room as well.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that builds also like a mental toughness within the kids when you kind of get that mentality over time?
Absolutely, and I think the early morning part of that, getting up and you're selling it that the teams on your schedule are not doing what you're doing. You're out working those guys by getting up and putting that time in, and they afford us the opportunity for the kids. The quarterbacks would take the receivers after school and they would do their thing. So it gave us a little extra time, and it also helped them as far as if they had to stay after school for tutoring or whatever. We didn't run into any issues like that, and it helped their academics as well.
Right. Now, as far as what you're allowed to do with the kids in the off season, I know there's like an open gym policy, mm-hmm. and basketball coaches do it all the time when they get out there and sit in the bleachers and all that kind of stuff. Right. Football coaches can do the same thing, basically.
We can during the course of the school year. Once we get into June, we can't do it as much. But during the course of the school year, we can actually just observe, basically be in an observation role, kind of more of a safety net, making sure nobody gets hurt or anything like that. But the kids are kind of trying to run the practice, if you will. They know the schemes. They know what they've been taught. Mm-hmm. It's a little more difficult for us this year since we hadn't installed anything yet. So it was more about just seeing who could run and jump. They were kind of doing their own thing, and just gave us a little bit of a pre-evaluation period, if you will.
Mm-hmm. So let's get to the point then when you actually did start spring practice. About what time of the season was that?
I think we started that last week of April.
Okay.
Knock on wood, with all the rain that we've had this spring, we didn't actually miss any time because of the rain. So we were nervous about the last day, so we were one practice short. We had 9 practices and 2 scrimmages. We only installed 3 or 4 run plays and 3 or 4 pass concepts. Tried to keep it real simple. And then we scrimmaged Lincoln County at the end of our first week after 6 practices, and Blackman at the end of our second week.
Okay. How did Blackman go? Because I know Blackman's probably a little bit further along than what Lincoln County is in the program right now. But
right. Don's rebuilding down there at Lincoln County, so that was a test for us to go out and have a little bit of reasonable success and kind of get some confidence. And
sure.
Then true measuring stick was the next week with Blackman, and they come in as probably one of the 3 or 4 best teams in the state, and they've got 150 varsity players, and their first 3 offensive lines are 300 pounds apiece and that sort of stuff. So we held our own. They scored a couple of times, and we scored once or twice. So it was fairly even. I was proud of the way we competed. The kids understand now what it's going to take to compete with a Rutherford County team. If you're going to make it anywhere in football in Tennessee, you got to be able to compete with the teams like come out of Rutherford County. And we went toe-to-toe with one of the better ones, and we're excited that we were able to kind of punch them back when they punched us. And so we know that if we get bigger and faster and stronger in the weight room, we can have a chance to be something special.
Well, I know you called me right prior to that scrimmage. I think you were going to do it on a Friday night. You was worried about the rain.
Right.
Did you go ahead and move it to Thursday?
Yeah, we went ahead and moved it to Thursday, and we're glad we did because the rain did come on Friday. So we actually did it on the practice field on Thursday instead of in the stadium, but it was a pretty cool atmosphere. Everybody had their lawn chairs out there, and Blackman has an end zone camera like we did, so we set one up on the side and one in the end zone, so we were able to get both shots, and we kind of traded back and forth so that we could get good footage of the kids. But both teams made sure everybody got in so we could evaluate them on film, and it was a good work for both of us. I enjoy working against people that we're familiar with. David Watson, who's the offensive coordinator over there, worked with me at Siegel. And Philip Shadowins, I was in that league for a long time as the head coach at Laverne and assistant at Laverne. So, you kind of know what you're going to get, and you know that they're going to make their kids behave and be respectful and play hard, and we knew we were going to do the same thing. So it's good to work with people like that. You
mentioned video. Do you watch a lot of video during spring practice?
Yeah, we actually we filmed every practice, and we were grading it each night, and we were sending it via Huddle. That Huddle program has kind of revolutionized film study as it goes. I remember being a young coach and having 10 VCRs stacked on top of each other and trying to make scout tapes for everybody and do that sort of thing. Now it's at the click of a button with the digital cameras and things we have now. We can run it right through the computer. It saves us a bunch of time. But we give each coach an assignment basically, and they're going to grade their position players. We can type in notes in the Huddle. We can do whatever we can, what we need to kind of coach off the tape, if you will, because we keep going back to that tempo thing. But the way we practice is we're not stopping after every rep and correcting Johnny. We'll send Johnny an email with the 10 things that we need to correct or whatever, and it'll circle him, and we can write on top of there, watch your first step here or look at that, and we can email it to him at night so he can sit at home and watch the video and doesn't really have to hear me yelling at him or whatever, but he can read it real simply put, and then he's ready to go the next day and it's corrected, and we didn't have to waste any time. Is there a way to, as a coach, to know whether or not the kid watched it? Absolutely. Huddle records how much time they spend on there, and how long they watch the video. We were a little worried at first. They just pull it up and walk away. They can go play Nintendo or whatever it is that they do, but it actually times them out without the mouse moving around for activity. So it's a wonderful tool, and we actually get them to email us feedback back after they've watched it and seen our critiques, if you will. We almost like you do in the classroom. You want a little reflection, if you will, off of what they learned. That we have those email us those back to us. Man, it's come a long way. I hadn't been away from football that long, but we never had anything like that. It was always just way back when I started. It was you weren't even born probably, but we have moved a long way. I'll get off that subject, but all right. So we moved from our winter workouts into our spring practice. Now we're going to a point in which TWSAA says you can't be out there with them. You can't have a football. You can't, do this. You can do weightlifting and conditioning. Right.
So what kind of schedule will the kids have this summer?
Well, we kind of finished up spring. You know, we did that. We took up the equipment, did that sort of thing, and we actually had individual player meetings. Each position coach sat down one-on-one, just like we're sitting down right here with their position players. I personally sat down with all the seniors, so we can kind of get that what I want to do after high school kind of thing. Is football in my plans for college? If so, these are the schools I like. And you know, it was an honest dialogue between the two of us. You know, we've had guys that we know and trust in the college game, kind of the kids who want to play after, kind of give us a true critique or grade of where they think they fall. And then that way we can kind of better prioritize the schools that we want to go after, the schools we want to send all this film to and make those contacts with for these kids. So we spent a lot of time with that. It took us 3 days to get through the whole roster and do that. And then we set up our off-season program. We're going to do it from 9 to 12 in the mornings, 4 days a week. We'll take Wednesday off. We'll bring in, the way we're doing it is we do it by defensive position. So we're going to bring our D linemen, our linebackers in at 9 a.m. and they'll get started with their weight room portion. And it should take 45 minutes. And at 9:45, our next group comes in. Now, when they come in, the weight room group rotates off to the field where they're going to get their speed and agility work. And the second group rotates into the weight room and the locker room, and that's going to be basically everybody else, our defensive backs with our quarterbacks and our kickers and those kind of guys. And then that's 9:45. Then at 10:30, all our rising ninth graders are going to come in. So we're going to bring all those guys in at 10:30. We'll keep them together as one group. And it should be a 90-minute workout for everybody. The first group will be ending at 10:30, and then that last group will end about noon.
Sounds like you got it organized, and as far as the time, well, it sounds like you guys are going to be there a long time.
I mean, we'll be there 3 hours a day.
Yeah.
But, you know, we kind of ran down the staff. We're going to rotate around. You know, obviously there'll be a couple of us, myself and Coach Skill will probably be there every day. And most of the coaches want to be there when they can be there. And we feel like building those relationships in the weight room, that's one of the best places to build a relationship with those student athletes is in the weight room when you can be there in more of a intimate type situation where you can have better conversations with them. So, you know, like the offensive and defensive line coach, they're going to try to make sure they're there when their group's there, which will be that second group, and the receivers and defensive backs coach, they're going to make sure they're there. And then we got some guys that are going to volunteer and do some stuff that'll be there with the freshmen. So we're going to try to keep it to a minimum because we got guys that'll be mowing grass and doing that sort of stuff around campus as well. So we're all going to be there, and you know, it's a good time for us to bond as a staff as well.
Sure. Now, we got us through, I guess, the last week of June. Kind of tell us about the dead period. I mean, what's the staff going to do then? What about the kids? You going to get them out of there? I mean, what's your plans on?
Well, I mean, you know, the kids are going to, you know, that's when most of we prefer them to schedule their vacations around that time. So, you know, some of them are going to do that. Some of them are going to camps and doing that sort of stuff. You know, they're looking around for a place to continue working out because they truly don't want to take those 10 days off and lose all the time that they've put in. Because you can lose a lot of your conditioning in those 14 days, if you will, being away from activities. So, so the kids will be off doing their own thing. Then the staff, most of the staff that I have are younger guys. A lot of them with new families, and some of them from out of state. So there'll be a lot of them gone. But we are going to try to get together a couple of days in there and kind of do, without leaving, if you will, a staff retreat or, you know, some intense staff meetings as far as personnel and kick teams and all that kind of stuff. Because as far as we're concerned, when the dead period ends, real football starts. You may just have a helmet on, but there's a lot of teaching that needs to take place in July because once you put the pads on, 3 weeks isn't a whole lot of time to get everything together.
Well, let's talk about that point. I think it's maybe July the 8th this year, or something, that date. You can put headgears on, and you can get out there and compete. What kind of tournaments or 7-on-7? What do you got planned?
Absolutely, we're going to throw 3 nights a week during the week. The first week on Friday and Saturday we'll go to Vanderbilt. They're hosting a 7-on-7 tournament as they always do. It's always a great competition. It's a recruiting tool a little bit for Vanderbilt, so some of the best athletes in the Southeast will be there running and jumping, and that gives us the opportunity to kind of see, you know, where we measure up and work on the time and stuff. I mean, you know all about that. And then in the second week of July, we'll throw 3 nights, and then we're hosting our own 7-on-7 tournament on July 20th at Ravenwood. We got 14 teams already committed. You know, so it's going to be good competition. Jalen Hurd from Beach will be there. Oakland will be there. Siegel's going to be there. Blackman will be there, along with a lot of teams from our league. With Centennial will be there, and you know, Coach Clayton from Hillsboro will be there. So it'll be good. Good for all of us to get a lot of work that day. It's going to be basically a work day. We'll do a round robin deal in the morning where we'll get 5 or 6 games before lunch, and then we'll have a single elimination tournament in the afternoon.
How many fields are you going to use on that tournament?
Well, I mean, if you're familiar with Ravenwood, we'll use the lacrosse field. We'll put 2 fields on the lacrosse field. We'll put 2 in the stadium, and we'll put 2 on the practice field. So we'll have 6 fields going at all times with 2 officials per field, and there'll be a coach running each field, keeping up with the sack timer. We'll only have 4 seconds to get the ball off. So we'll run it just like a Vanderbilt or MTSU would run it.
So there won't be much rest time for those teams standing there and watching somebody else play, because they're going to be playing that whole time.
I mean, that's the plan. Coaches don't want to come around and get 2 or 3 games and spend most of their time sitting on the grass. So, you know, they want, if they're going to come and and pay a little money for these officials in order to they want to get work done. So we're going to give them all the work they want.
Okay. Well, we mentioned once before about some kids that maybe had been returning starters. How many seniors do you have on this coming year's team?
24.
24.
And some of those did not play last year. We've gained about 4. I think it was 18 to 20 are returning from last year, along with a few new ones.
And Ravenwood's a community. I know when I was there, you can always expect somebody's going to move in this summer.
Right, and we've had a couple already. So.
Okay, and it's going to probably help your football team in maybe a couple of different spots. But as a coach, you can't plan on that because you don't know who is going to show up. But I guess the thing is, have you found your leaders? How are you going to do your captains? Are you going to let the team vote on a captain? Are you going to pick guys each week, or who are those guys, and how many of those guys do you think?
I mean, that's a very good question. We still are actually playing around with that. I'm not a big elect a year-long captain kind of guy because, to be quite honest with you, that could change. And a person who's a leader for you right now, something may happen in their life, or they may have a negative action that that could hurt the team.
Sure.
That they may not deserve to be captain at that point. So I'm a big game captain guy. We will put all the seniors in a situation to be a game captain if they deserve so, and then we'll, as a team after the season, we'll award captains at the banquet. Okay. These guys proved that they were the captain throughout the year, but we're imploring those seniors to step up and be leaders. We kind of had a little leadership training built into our off-season program and try to identify those guys. And I think that's one thing we were lacking when we first got there, that we needed to build a little more leadership. I think, with a school as diverse as Ravenwood, and you have some of the wealthiest people in Tennessee, and then you have some of the poorest people in Tennessee, all under the same roof right there. And we want to make sure that we don't get into the clique situation. And we're going to take the team away for 3 days for camp to Tennessee Tech. We're going to go without cell phones and iPads and do all that kind of stuff. And we're going to use that to come together as a team and kind of hone in our skills. But to me, the invaluable part of becoming a team together will be what we'll gain from that, just as much as the X's and O's and the technique stuff that we'll learn.
So outside the camp at Tech, do you have other scrimmages already lined up for you?
We're going to scrimmage 4 times. We'll scrimmage Lincoln County again that Thursday of the first week after we get our 3 full days of pads in. We're actually going to Fayetteville into the pit on Thursday, which will be a good experience for these kids to go down there. Then we're going to scrimmage Antioch, hopefully. We had that set up with Coach Woodward before he changed jobs, but he assures me that he thinks that'll still be an okay scrimmage to keep. So we're going from the I at Lincoln County to what could be the Wishbone, and then we're going to scrimmage a Wing T team in Wilson Central that Friday, and we'll finish up with Jalen Hurd and the Beach Buccaneers right before we play Stewart's Creek Week 0.
Okay, so I was going to get to that point. First game, Week 0, Stewart's Creek. Is it a home-away game?
We start out, our first 2 games are at home this year. So we have Stewart's Creek at home, Week 0, which will be their first ever game as a program, and our first game at Ravenwood this year.
Well, we know who their head coach is, and we know where he's been the last 25 or so many years. Kind of got an idea about what was probably be an offensive philosophy for Stewart's Creek. Have you gone back and found any good pastor tape yet?
We are in the process. We may or may not have a coach on our staff whose wife works at Good Pasture, so I won't get too far into that. But Coach Martin has been known to be a Wing T guy. That was part of the reason of building in the Wing T scrimmage with Wilson Central to make sure that we get some time with that. And then his defensive coordinator is Jeff Mitchell, who's been a Rutherford County guy for a long time.
Right.
So I'm familiar with him and kind of have an idea where he'll go and what direction he'll do on defense. So.
So when it comes to fall, I know probably you may have some kids that were doing maybe some spring sports there at Ravenwood and that didn't get to participate in your spring practice. So how many kids are you anticipating to have on the varsity football program?
We've worked through the roster. It looks like right now we're going to be around 92 on the varsity. And then from all the feedback and information we've gotten, we're looking for between 40 and 50 freshmen.
Okay.
So we're actually going to practice them all together. We're going to split the squad, including the freshmen, into 2 groups. And I said I was coaching the H-backs and the fullbacks. I'll coach every H-back/fullback in the program. Just like the D-line coach will see every D-lineman in the program. And we hope that over time the consistency in the verbiage and techniques being taught, there'll be no overlap. And when those kids promote from grade to grade to grade, that we'll get a lot smoother transition.
Do you foresee any freshmen having the possibility of playing up on the varsity?
If they're good enough, they'll play, baby.
So you're not going to hold it against them if they're a freshman then, as far as they got an opportunity to play. And I just noticed, just as off the cuff, but I just noticed where Tennessee got a commitment from a kid who is a freshman,
right,
and he's going to be a sophomore next year out of Powell, Tennessee, who's 6'5", 235 pounds, and runs a 4.6.
Yeah, we're not going to discriminate by age at all at Ravenwood High School.
Okay. Well, as far as any fundraisers going that we need to know about that Ravenwood football is going to be doing.
Well, I mentioned the 7-on-7 tournament. We hope that the concessions of that will help us out. In June, we'll do our general card sale. That's a big fundraiser for the Red Zone Club, which is the booster club of.
When you talk about a card, you're talking about a
discount card.
A discount card.
Yeah, that'll be good at several of the restaurants and oil change places and things of that in the area. And those are our main 2 fundraisers. We also like to sell it in, game sponsorships,
right.
Whatever they want to call the first down marker, each first down, that kind of thing. So we'll do some of that stuff. And then it's really trying to get the membership up in the Red Zone Club. So.
Well, Coach, congratulations
on
that new head job at Ravenwood High School. I got fond memories of that school. I helped get that place started over there. And thank you for being with us today. And we'll keep an eye on the Raptors this year.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you for joining us. This has been the Williamson County Sports Connection. I'm Jack Daniels, your host.